I'm Jane Dragon. I'm from Fort Smith. I was born in northern Saskatchewan, but I moved to Fort Smith when I was 9. I've been there since. Smith was really good for us. We raised our family. We got married in '59, raised 6 children. David and I were married for 53 years. He passed away 3 years ago, would have been 56 now. Yeah, had a good life. If a person could have half of what we have, they'll have a wonderful life. We learn from people what we want to learn. I had 5 elders. Mrs. Calamay, her name was, we used to call her Mrs. Adam. And I had Mrs. Benwell, Mrs. Beaver, and Mrs. Susie King, and Mrs. Cheesy. I had lots of elders, actually. You know, I had more than 5, but those 5 were the ones that helped me the most. They taught me everything, how to flesh beavers, how to make dry meat. The only thing I never did was dry fish. And I had made a deal with my husband, if you clean my fish, I will flesh all his beavers, and that was a good deal. Elders really helped me realize how important of our wildlife, our environment, and I raised my children that way. I made sure. So we had all these elders that were always around us, and my children were raised with them, you know, like, it was nice. And they really respect the elders themselves because that's just part of life. We had 2 trap lines. We used to trap on one for 3 years and then let the other one rest, and then we switch back and forth. It's really important to preserve the animals too, because they just don't grow on trees. That's what my husband used to say, they don't grow on trees, so you have to make sure you look after them. We used to see moose all winter long on our trap line. We never shot a moose. We never did, because we didn't need it. We only get what we needed, and that was it. We usually get our moose, and we use every part of our moose. With the bones, we have some tools that are made out of moose bones, and we use it for soups and stuff like that. Moose head, we roasted the moose head, and it's got different flavors in the moose head. It's really good. We use the moose ear for our shell bag, or you make bags out of their legs. Then we make, out of the legs, I make mucklocks, just the leg part, and then the hide, we usually cut it off and get it all dried up separately, and then I'd make my moose hides. The moose brain, I use it for my tanning, because I tan moose hides. I have big muscles. I make mitts, I make footwear. My children all wore handicraft stuff. I make certain things one of a kind, and I usually sew the other one. I usually give the other one to the museums. I try not to make something the same way all the time, a little different so that it's special. Out of the caribou, they used everything. That you don't buy nets, they had to make their own nets. They made their own bags to preserve their meats because they didn't have freezers those days. And the back strap, we use it for thread and that. And and we make little bags, you know, food bags. There's no waste. Everything we have. And I want the children to know that. We never were wasteful people. People live on the land, and even though I lived in town, I lived like I was on the land. Anything that we can't eat goes back on the trap line. We feed the other animals. And as long as you respect the animal, you gut it right away, you look after your meat, you always have good meat. Well, I'm very proud of my culture. I mean, my kit is one of a kind in Canada, as far as I know. I go to all the schools. I go to the college. I did All's House Slave a couple of years ago. But this way, it's show and tell, you know, like they can touch things, they ask questions about it. Oh, I feel good about my stuff because I'm not a wasteful person. I just want to share that with the children, whoever I can share it with. It took me over 20 years for what I have. It gives me a good feeling because the kids enjoy it, and I enjoy it. I try and explain to them. I mean, sometimes I find my sewing stuff that I had done years ago and I laugh at it because I do better now. But that's just the way it goes. You know, you live and learn and do your best and it always turns out. Tawana. That means live a long time. That means thank you in my language.